Classic Cinema with the Sage Sisters, listeners and viewers. Today, Celeste and I are talking about the movie Captain Newman, MD, with Gregory Peck, Angie Dickinson, Tony Curtis. There are a whole bunch of people in it. Uh, Bobby
Bobby
Darin,
Darin. Yeah.
and who plays the governor or the guy that kills himself?
Oh,
Eddie
Eddie
Albert.
Albert. A very serious
Yes.
role for him.
And another role for Robert Duvall where he's sort of like he is in To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah.
And Gregory Peck and Robert Duvall did To Kill a Mockingbird about a year before this one
Right.
came out.
Right. Right.
So, yeah, so you were just going to say something before I started recording. I have a lot of thoughts about this movie, but go ahead and say
Oh,
what you were going to say.
I didn't write down my thoughts because I didn't need to, but it had been decades since I'd seen this film. And the kids and I and Jamie were talking about it last night. We were wondering why Turner Classic doesn't show it, because they always have these themes. And I thought, do they have mental health themes? They need to have that kind of theme,
Yeah.
movies about mental health and I kind of think they have, but maybe they just can't get the rights to this film. I don't
Yeah.
know, but
Yeah. Because it's not
it
very well known.
no, it's not, and it should be
Yeah.
because Bobby Darin was Oscar nominated.
Yeah.
So to me, if you're having 31 days of Oscar, he was Oscar nominated. That should be on there,
Yeah. Right.
right?
Yeah.
But they in the trivia and stuff, they talk about how this movie, and it's categorized this way as comedy, drama, war, you
Right.
know, and they are deeming it like this precursor to like a MASH type
Right.
theme where you're having these funny things that happen in the film, but also very serious, hardcore themes
Right.
of the mental and the PTSD that happens because of war.
Right.
And really how the movie starts is um you get the impression that it is this place where these soldiers are sent who are having this trauma, and Captain Newman, and he is a
Mhm.
who is
Psychiatrist.
psychiatrist who has been deemed to help these soldiers get back to war.
Right.
That's what this place is for.
I think
It's
he's only
for
given like
them.
10 weeks or something.
I know. They give them a certain amount of time, and then they're supposed to get right back to fighting and to battle. And this
Right.
is World War II we're talking about. So,
Right.
and it's ridiculous. And
Yeah.
he even feels this way. Captain Newman is like, what a ridiculous concept that they can heal in 10 weeks. And of course, the other theme of this is how they don't treat the soldiers as if they matter.
Right. Well,
And
Captain
that's
Newman does, but the Army doesn't, or
yeah,
the
the
Air
army.
Force, or
Well, and it takes him a little bit, like you can tell he's really worked hard to develop his team of nurses
hmm
and
hmm
orderlies that care.
Right.
He makes sure he gets the right people on his team that are there for all the right reasons to
Which
care
is
for these.
part of the funny part when he gets Tony Curtis.
Well, Tony Curtis is, being a huge fan of Operation Petticoat, it's
Right.
like Jamie and everybody, we were pointing out, he plays a similar character to the one
He
he plays in
does.
Operation Petticoat.
Yeah.
Kind of a little bit of a con man.
Well, and he's
But
also but he's streetwise.
he's streetwise. But he's also what at first, when they find that they've got a new orderly coming in,
hmm
he makes sure, Captain Newman's like, get him, get him now.
Yeah.
Because there's other parts of this hospital where your
Yeah.
wound recovery as well. It's
Right.
combat recovery at all levels.
But it's also
And
a
he just
training
happened,
facility. It's
and a
yeah.
training facility.
hmm
But it's also, because part of what they do, you get the impression is as they're recovering physically and mentally, they kind of train them and make sure that they can mentally handle it to get
Right.
back out there, and they physically can handle it.
Yeah.
So that's really what this facility has been deemed as part of this whole thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, you got to commend the military to recognize that soldiers are mentally suffering and having serious issues, to
Right.
create a division that, and who came up with a 10-week program is beyond me.
I don't know, but the commander of the base
Oh,
is not very
ah,
supportive.
he's a horrible person. He just wants them to get back, just wants them to
Right.
get back. Just, he doesn't
And
care at
he,
all costs.
well, and he doesn't believe that they're real. He kind of calls them namby-pamby or something.
Oh yeah, he
He doesn't
calls
re
them pansies. He thinks they're
Yeah,
being weak.
right.
And
Until Colonel,
is
until
that
the Colonel
toxic,
Bliss thing
which of
happens.
course is this toxic,
Right.
environment of be a man,
Right.
which we've had around for so many centuries. It's
Right.
ridiculous.
Yeah. Uh,
So, I feel like this story, and really for me, I guess I look at Best Years of Our Lives
hmm
as the beginning of Hollywood being able to tell the wounded soldier's story,
Right.
the emotional and mental tax that war has had on soldiers.
Right.
And
This,
so
and
it's such a great graduation into this movie.
yeah, and this is based on a book, on a
Yeah,
real person.
yeah.
It wasn't made until
60,
1963,
63, right.
but and we have to mention, I have to mention it because we both lived in Sierra Vista and I still live
Yeah,
in that area, and it's filmed on Fort Huachuca, which is about 25 miles north of us. Jamie used to work on Fort Huachuca. It's also
yeah.
filmed on Davis Monthan Air Force Base in Tucson.
Tucson, right.
So yeah,
And
Sierra
it
Vista.
and it the facility is supposed to be held, it is supposed to be in Arizona. And
Yeah,
there really was such a facility
yeah,
during World War II in Arizona.
yeah,
Those were all facts.
yeah,
This whole facility truly was in Arizona.
right.
And that I really appreciate that they recognize this book as important enough to make a film from.
Yes.
Because in the trivia it also talks about that the man who wrote this book wrote it after a friend who actually was the first one to diagnose PTSD.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love the shots in the movie
Yes.
where Gregory Peck's character, Captain Newman, is dealing with the various
Oh my gosh.
guys that he
Yeah.
has in his ward. Ward 7 is what it's called.
Ward 7, yeah.
And helping them, because a couple of times there are these really horrific things happen when Colonel Bliss comes. This is an interesting tidbit that I'll add right here. Colonel Bliss's character is based on the same character, actual person, General Frank Armstrong, that Gregory Peck played in 12 O'Clock
Both
High.
Hawkeye. Yeah.
Although he doesn't, spoiler alert, kill himself. But and his condition was kept under wraps until much, much
Oh yeah.
later.
Oh yeah. The military, Jamie and I talked about this because Jamie knows all this military history, obviously, because he was in the military,
Right,
in the army. And he
right.
talks about how for so many decades upon decades, they wanted to keep all of this mental health issues they were trying to play it real light. Like it
Yeah,
really wasn't a thing that was happening
right.
because they just needed numbers,
Yeah,
especially
right,
during a time of war.
right,
They just needed you to get back out there and be a part of the force to win.
right.
That's all
Exactly.
their goal was, to win.
Well, assuming, because I did go look him up on Wikipedia, Frank Armstrong. And
Oh
I'm
yeah, good.
assuming that after that whole breakdown that happens in England, when he's commanding the day bombing raid, uh, what do you call them? Squadrons or
Right.
whatever. I'm not in the military, so I don't know. Anyway, that he did recover pretty quickly, but they sent him like like Eddie Albert's character, they
Right.
sent him to the Pacific
Right.
after he recovered.
And
So
and
he
that
did,
that was always their strategy is if they could send you someplace different, you would be just fine.
yeah, well,
Or
and he,
sometimes they would give you like desk duty or
right,
things that didn't have to do with combat, but you still were a part of the war effort,
yeah.
not
I don't I
realizing.
think that he did do the same job over in the Pacific.
Oh, I
So
think he did. Yeah,
Eddie
I think he
Albert's
did.
character has come from the Pacific.
Right.
And he is, there are three main characters that they kind of pay attention to the most. And that's Eddie Albert's character, Bobby Darin's character, and Robert Duvall's character.
Right.
The others are kind of periphery. We see Captain Newman
Right.
interacting with them
Right.
periodically, but those are the three main ones that we see. And
Yeah.
after they get Tony Curtis, Angie Dickinson kind of confronts Captain Newman in the mess hall or something.
Because she
And
doesn't work in Ward 7.
no, she works in a different part of the hospital, and she
Right.
has a lot of medical experience. I mean, when he was going, he had picked her, got
Her
got her
file.
file and
Yeah.
read it, and she did the same for him. I
Yeah.
think they're attracted to each other, but he she kind of, because she's figured out where Tony Curtis went.
Yeah, she's like, we were supposed to get.
Yeah, and so
And she's like, what happened to him? And it's
yeah,
so
right,
cute how she confronts him.
yeah, and how
And of
she
course he has to admit that,
yeah.
commandeered him.
Well, they needed him, and the
They do. They
commander,
do.
his next in command up
Yeah.
is there, and then he goes, "Well, it doesn't matter because two more are coming right after he has agreed to her. Well, you can have the next two orderlies." And she
And
says,
then
"No,
she
they're
looked
coming."
at him like, oh, really? Because he knew
Yes,
they were coming.
yeah, she knew they were
But
coming
it works out really
that day.
well. That's the thing that I think is important that we talk about Captain Newman is he has amazing instincts. I
Yes,
think, my feeling is about him to be a person who really can truly identify this mental taxing, the PTSD. I think that's very intuitive to
well, and
be
he can
able
also,
to be so close to these soldiers to understand because
yes,
they show this amazing part where right after he gets Tony Curtis, and the other guy comes in because they're thinking about closing down the division.
right,
And so this money guy comes in to to examine it to see if it's really necessary.
right,
And he's like, there's an incident that happens
right,
in the ward, in the very large room where most all the soldiers are kept, all, you know,
right,
in one large room. They have their own beds, and so he has the guy come along with him, the captain come along with him, and to observe.
right,
And he's talking to each soldier,
right,
but he talks to them differently. And that's a really important part that this
right.
this guy observes. And
Yes,
one of the ones that's I think really switches the switch for this guy is that gets him to click in is there's a soldier who seems to be completely normal.
right.
He's talking back and forth with Captain Newman. He's just having like a normal conversation. And then he does something and his hat falls off. He's a sailor,
He's got a
and
sailor hat. Yeah.
his sailor hat falls off. And the money guy goes to pick it up, and Captain Newman's like, "Oh, no, 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 don't do that." And the kid just breaks. And
Yeah.
he goes full on meltdown and screaming at him. And then Captain Newman is able to calm him down.
Right.
And of course, this guy's like, uh, oh, okay. Well, that was,
Yeah.
appearances were deceiving.
Right.
And then you saw the real story. And then of course he goes to each because it's the rounds he's doing. It was time for
Yeah.
his nurse comes to him and say, "Hey, it's time to do your rounds." So
Yeah.
he goes and does all this, and he gets to see that there's a young man who's, not speaking.
Hmm.
He has unable to speak at all
Right.
because of his trauma. And, Captain Newman just is so sweet and gentle with him. And then, I love how they demonstrate how he talks differently with each one of them
Each one.
based off of their conditions.
Yeah, now I want to go back to Angie Dickinson. So Captain Newman's really impressed with her over that whole thing
Oh
about
yeah.
the orderly. And so he goes and gets her file. He reads her experience, and he has decided that she's probably going to be really good in. He
In
wants
the
to
ward. Yeah.
lure her to his uh, ward. And so he takes her out to dinner. He gives her a lei. He compliments her, but she gets kind of ticked off at him
Because
when
she
she
thinks
realizes that
wants to date her, and she's
yeah,
like, "Oh, you just
yeah,
wanted me. You just were trying to recruit me."
right. So then an emergency happens, and it happens to be with, I think it's with Commander Bliss, or I mean,
It is
Colonel
with
Bliss.
Bliss. Colonel
And
Bliss is when he has
she
the knife. Yeah,
and she sees how he is dealing with this whole situation,
right.
and then the next thing you know, she's
He's dead.
transferred.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the whole situation was, they really show you too how with Colonel Bliss, they've tried to keep him in a contained area,
Mm-hmm.
and but it's really not.
Right.
They still don't know how to personally treat each of these soldiers in a way where it's safe.
Right.
You
Well, I
know,
think since he is a uh an officer,
right.
they keep the officers in a separate
They do,
room,
but
because
it's not
it's
very
the
secure.
same with Robert Duvall's character. He's an
Right.
officer, and
He's
so
an officer.
he has
Right.
his own private room. Yeah. And uh, it there is an indication that there's a little romance going on between Angie Dickinson and Captain Newman, but
But that's not the
the
theme
red,
of this film.
yeah, that's not the
It's not
focus.
really
And
the theme of
also,
it.
they
Yeah.
could be court-martialed if they
Well, yeah, it would be
actually,
fraternization. So,
right.
the thing is, like you say, they focus. I think they do a really good job, though, of showing each one of these soldiers.
Hmm.
And really, what happens when he recruits Tony Curtis is Tony Curtis starts reading the psychology books
I know this.
immediately, and then he's all like, "Well, Captain Newman, you're doing this wrong." Because really, what this is, and Captain Newman just gets the biggest kick out of him because he's like, "Oh, really? How am I doing this wrong?"
Yeah.
I mean, it's so funny. So he decides at first he's angry that he's been recruited.
Yeah.
And then as he really starts to, he's really a breath of fresh air,
Hmm.
Tony Curtis's character, because he treats each and every one of them like they matter.
Right.
He treats them like, hey, let's do stuff together,
Right.
like they're a team. He
So he
brings
has
them
them,
together. He has
makes,
this team mentality with them that is so wonderful.
I love it when he has them, he's teaching them how to sing in a choir. Old MacDonald had, and
Right.
they're all singing together.
I
So
know.
funny.
It's,
Oh my God.
I mean, he's that lightness that they needed.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's not that Gregory Peck actually knew that about, I mean, Captain knew that about him before he came
No.
along, but it's just this happy circumstance that happened.
Yes.
And
And he knows how, like when the Italian prisoners of war show up,
yeah,
and they put him in his in Newman's ward, and he's like, "Why are you doing
why
this?"
are
Well,
they here?
he said,
Right.
"You have the only place that is locked. You can lock it up."
Leibowitz,
Yeah, Doc.
take this bunch into the ward. Have Blodgett check them in after they've been showered.
Sure, Doc. Attenzione! Buongiorno. Silenzio. Nel nome del capitano Newman vi saluto. A vi auguro il quadrato 7. Comportatevi bene e nessuno sarà punito. You see, in the neighborhood I came from, you had to know at least 6 different languages in order to do business. Allineatevi tutti. Fronte a destra. Avanti, marcio. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Va bene, ragazzi. Arrivederci.
But it's funny how, they bring in these Italian soldiers and they're trying to figure out what the heck they're going to do. And Tony Curtis just totally takes control over it. He's like, I
Right.
got it.
Right.
I got it. It's okay. I got it. And he's really this huge help.
Right.
He's an enormous help because he has a huge skill set. Once
Yes.
again, his street smarts really helps everybody feel at home with him.
Yeah. And
And
it's
because he
also
doesn't
funny
treat
that
any of them like their mental health, he doesn't go,
right,
ooh,
right,
ooh,
right,
ooh,
right.
how am I supposed to talk to them? Does none of those things.
Yeah. It's also interesting that he's the one who identifies Bobby Darin needs help, that
Yes,
he's got some
right.
mental issues.
Yeah,
So
because
that's
he's not there from the very beginning.
mm-mm,
Either is Robert Duvall. It's throughout the film that Bobby Darin's character is brought in, and he's put in the big room with all the guys, and they have Captain Newman come in to see him, and he's hugging his guitar.
yeah.
He's laying in his bed hugging his
Well,
guitar,
that's
and
in
he's
his
got
ward. That's in the different ward. He's in
and
the
and so they're like, oh, I think he needs, because he's in just the regular, hey, wounded
right,
ward.
right.
And that's when Tony Curtis and other people go, no, he's not okay. And
Well,
so
he's been
Captain
sneaking
Newman,
out to get drunk.
oh, he's been going to get drunk.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Hmm.
so Tony Curtis does, he talks to his character talks to Captain Newman, and Captain Newman's like, yeah, okay, I'll go see what's going on with him. Let me see what's happening.
Yeah.
And that's when he's laying there hugging it, but he's got that sarcasm that
Mm,
there is nothing you can do for me. What
right.
are you here talking to me for?
Right.
And Captain Newman's kind of like, oh, I,
Yeah.
I see it.
Yeah.
So he takes a special interest in him, obviously. But, you know, he's so smart because Angie Dickinson's character is like, well, aren't you just going to bring him over here? Aren't you just, she wondering why he's not taking active action to get him into
Into
the
the
Ward 7.
ward.
And he's like,
Hmm.
he has to come to me. I cannot go to him.
Well, I
He
loved
has to,
the reason he says that is if I go to him and if I make him come here, I'm the weak one.
right. He says he has to be the one in charge of himself. Yeah, I
Hmm.
was getting ready to say that. And she's like, oh, yeah. Okay. I mean, she
Hmm.
learns so much through this whole process with him.
Hmm. Yeah.
And how really naturally he has this all figured out a lot of times. Now,
Yeah.
he is not perfect. He doesn't deem himself to understand every single nuance of all of their mental health issues,
Right.
but he's once again, there is that intangible instinct that he has that he deals with these soldiers.
Right. Not
He
like
he
one of the times we see that he hasn't had time to figure it out is uh
oh,
um with Bliss, Colonel Bliss.
oh,
And
Colonel Bliss is quite the case.
Colonel
Absolutely.
Bliss, he's silent for several days or maybe even weeks until
Yeah.
when he starts talking. Gregory Peck goes in to talk to him and he says he is not Colonel Bliss. That is Mr. Past. I am Mr. Future. So
Future.
we
Yeah.
see he's had a split
Yeah.
in his personality.
Yeah.
And so he's unfortunately doesn't have enough time
No.
to
Well, because this higher up guy keeps coming in and going, I want him back in battle. He needs to be in charge. And Gregory Peck's like, I mean, Captain Newman's going, you have no idea. He couldn't handle it.
right.
And the guy's just like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
He's a soldier. He's a man in charge. I mean, he's such an idiot,
Yeah.
And of course, what I really appreciate too is the colonel that is in charge of all the wards that oversees the entire base
Mm-hmm.
absolutely has Captain Bliss's back. I
Yeah.
mean, Captain Newman's back.
Newman's back.
He absolutely has, he's just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. So the head
he's
commander
like,
of
you're
the
going to have to trust him because I trust him.
yeah, but the head commander keeps pushing Bliss into this hearing so they can see if he
Yes.
really needs the
Yes. And he
and
doesn't want Captain Newman there.
right.
But another thing that I think is really interesting is you don't see him doing it, but when Captain Newman is sitting with Colonel Bliss, Colonel Bliss keeps naming off all these names.
Yes.
And so he records him giving the list of names.
Right.
And he's trying to go through each and every one of them and write them down because he's trying to find out information
About
that
them,
could
about
help
the
him,
name. Yeah.
that it could help him. And Angie Dixon, she's like, why are you writing all these names down? He goes, I need you to help me. I can't figure out this one name. And he says, this could be really helpful. And she's like, okay. So she actively starts to help him because she trusts him as well.
Yes.
And the thing about this colonel that wants everybody back in battle, he's like, Captain Newman is the only one that's not getting them out in 10 weeks. What's the matter with him? It should be 10 weeks. And he's pounding the table and he's really angry. Well, his commander, Captain Newman's commander, comes to him and says, hey, he wants to have this private hearing, but he doesn't want you there. And Captain Newman's like, okay. I mean, I have no control over that. Well, obviously, some time has passed before they can get the hearing. And Captain Newman has obviously written this letter. And he gets something back about the list of all the names.
Yeah,
And
but
they were the
there's
people
some time has passed because they try to have the hearing, but Bliss refuses to show up.
Oh yeah,
the
Bliss won't even
first
show
one.
up.
For the
Right.
first one, where
And so they
they're
can't
gonna
figure out why he
exclude-
won't show up. This guy's
Right.
like, what's the matter with him?
Right.
And so time has passed. The others, soldiers have come in.
Yeah.
Robert Duvall, he's not speaking as well. He obviously is in some sort of shock. And his backstory is he was held in a bunker.
Well, I think he
got crashed. Something happened. He found this bunker, this private, out of the way place. And he stayed there for, what did they say, 13 days?
13 months.
Oh, 13 months. That's right.
Long time.
They're like,
and he was helped by the people who lived there
in the community, right?
Which was really dangerous for them, but
oh my gosh, absolutely.
They hit him. They kept
but
him
they
safe.
hit him, and so they don't know what kind of trauma has happened to him while he was in that bunker. They were kind of like, well, he was kind of safe. I wonder what that's about. So, but they can't get him to speak. He won't even eat.
Hardly.
There's a scene where Angie Dickinson, she's feeding him soup.
Right.
And he won't even hardly swallow it.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that happens to him is he'll mumble some words and then he goes to sleep for like days.
Yeah.
And
well, I think what he's doing is he's mumbling his name and his serial
right.
number.
Well, but they can't even still really understand some of it. They're thinking that's probably what it is, but then he goes to sleep. So he's in his own room because he's isolated. So that's very perplexing for them. And then of course, along the same lines, he's, Bobby Darin's character comes along and asks for Captain Newman to come along. And says, meet me in this room, which I think is the cafeteria. And he is drunk as all get out. He's escaped and he's found the alcohol. And that's when he kind of starts to say, okay, I kind of breaks down a little bit because Captain Newman knows how to talk to him.
Yeah.
And knows how to get some information from him. They still don't know his full story. They do know that he was a bomber pilot and that he crashed, but they don't know really what happened after that.
He wasn't the pilot. Big Jim was the pilot.
Well, Big Jim was the pilot, but he was in the bomber.
He was in the bomber and he was shooting down the plane.
And so they still don't know what happened with that.
Right.
And so finally there's this room that they call the Jack Juice room. And what it is flax juice, and they shoot you up so they can help you calm yourself down enough to be able to tell your story.
Yeah, it's a drug of some sort
it's some sort of drug, right? So eventually he is able to ask to go into the flax room. He wants the flax juice.
Yeah.
And that is such an intense moment too.
Yeah, it is.
Because, Captain Newman just says, you're just going to go to sleep. Because that's the other thing he can't do. He can't sleep through the night.
Right.
And so Captain Newman even says to him in that moment when he's drunk, he's like, I know what you're doing. You play your music to forget, you drink to forget, and you don't sleep because you don't want to remember.
Right.
And he's like, well, who do you think you are? Telling that to me. He doesn't really like that he's got it figured out. That's why he's doing all these things.
Mhm.
But that moment where, he and Angie Dickinson are in the room with him and they give him that shot of the flack juice. It's very intense.
It
It's
is.
very, he is able to share because they're both named, Jim, and he's the big Jim's the pilot, and the little Jim is the one who drops the bombs, and that's,
Bobby Darin.
and then they get, yeah, get that guy. Yeah, get that guy. Yeah, get that guy. And then they get shot down and they're crashed. And then, of course, he describes, Big Jim has had his head, he's
No, it's his
decapitated.
friend. It's not Big Jim that lost his head. It's the guy that was with him.
Oh, it's his friend.
And Big
Yeah.
Jim
So that's
is
what he just
caught
can't.
in
I
the
mean, he can't fathom because it's all this chaos going on,
Yeah.
and he's got this survivor's remorse because he goes and runs to safety,
Yeah, and the plane
and
is on
he's
fire
mad at
and
himself for he's thinking,
not
why didn't I save my friend?
yeah, Big
Why
Jim.
didn't I
Why
save
didn't I?
my friend? And it's
Right.
like, oh my gosh, you couldn't have done that. His head, he
Yeah.
was decapitated, you
Well,
know?
and no, it's Big Jim that the pilot that he needs, who's caught in the plane, and Big Jim is yelling at him, "Come help me get out, help me get out!" But the
Yeah.
plane is on
But
fire.
the plane is in flames.
Yeah,
And he can't figure out why he didn't go help him. Well, he couldn't. The
yeah,
flame, because I think he eventually says that the flame had exploded or something had happened
yeah. It exploded, and
where
they never.
he couldn't even go back because it had
Yeah.
completely disintegrated.
Yep.
And I I know because his friend gets killed, the plane's on fire, but he has this survivor's remorse. And the remorse is also, I could have done something and I didn't.
Right.
He was calling for me. Why didn't I go back and help him? And of
Right.
course, now they know how to help him with his process
Yeah.
because they
And
have to just, help him realize there was absolutely nothing he could do.
so each one of the guys, well, they don't get to help Bliss, unfortunately.
No,
He
but they do. You can start seeing the healing of all the other soldiers in the larger
Yes,
ward too.
right. And of
Yeah.
Robert Duvall's character and Bobby Darin's character. In fact, Bobby
Well,
Darin gets to go back to
and it's really interesting because he gains so much trust, Bobby Darin's character with Captain Newman. He really appreciates him.
Yeah.
And when they show him with his firearm with all the other soldiers getting on the plane again, he hands him something. He hands him a note.
In my humble opinion, you were in the hands of quacks in War 3. You came to us and we knew what to do. Now, you got everything?
Uh-huh.
Toothbrush?
Yeah.
Candy bar? Soap? And nylon.
Jake, you're a wonder.
Remind me to recommend you for procurement officer.
I accept.
You better get moving, Jim.
Yeah. Jake, so long.
Goodbye.
Lieutenant?
Goodbye, Jim.
And he's like, I'm okay though. You can tell he's found his peace.
Yes.
And then, the Robert Duvall, it's so interesting because he's like, he wants the family. Captain Newman wants Robert Duvall's family to come see him. They
Right.
want them to come because he thinks that could really be a catalyst for him to start healing and feeling like his family wants to be with him,
Mhm.
familiar.
Right.
That's really important for him. Well, the family, because you get the impression he's very upper crust and comes from wealth.
Yes.
And the family's like, oh no, this is a private situation and we're not going to come see him because that's just not the way this works. These things are done in private, not for public.
Right.
And so he's kind of like, okay. So at one point, you hear that the wife has arrived because Captain Newman privately wrote her a letter and asking her to come. And he meets with her, and he's like, she immediately is very staunch,
Mm.
very stiff, and she's just like, oh, this is ridiculous. Of course he's fine. I mean, she doesn't want him even, she's not even seen her husband yet.
I know. Yeah.
And she's just like, he'll get over it. Everything's fine. So, she's like, I just want to see him. And he's like, okay, you're going to go see him. Well, she immediately is like basically telling him to snap out of it.
Yeah, I
What are
know.
you up to? What are you doing? Why don't
Yeah.
you just snap out of it? Kind
Yeah.
of attitude. He's just like, well, this isn't working out the way I thought it was
I
going to.
know.
I mean, he was shocked at how she didn't even have a warm feeling to him
Yeah.
towards her own husband.
Yeah.
And then, you can see him kind of going, oh, I see what this is about. They're a family that you don't talk about your feelings. You don't have feelings. You just move forward in life and you just keep doing whatever you need to do
I think she says we do things by sheer will, something
we
like
do it
that.
by will. And he has the will,
Yeah.
and she's even kind of saying that to him. Come on, you can do this. And eventually he decides to have a conversation with her, which is a bit controversial because he's like, so are you, basically, are you intimate with your husband? Did you try to get intimate with him? You're in a room alone. And she's just like, and he goes, you could dress different. And she gets outraged.
Yes.
How dare you ask me to whore myself? I'm not going to do that. And he's like, well, intimacy can make a big difference. And she, of course, complains about him, asking her to do this. It gets reported back to his big boss. And his big boss is like, what is the matter with him? How dare he ask her to do this? So, but I think it's really interesting as time goes by, because you can see that it's getting to be the holidays and it's Christmas time. And she's still there. She is staying in this hotel and she's still there. And she obviously wants to try to do
Yeah.
something, because she keeps going in there and then coming back out and going in. And then I think eventually, what's so great, without any dialogue, without anything, she gives it a try.
She wears
And
this beautiful dress.
because she's so upset, and Captain Newman goes, you don't understand. He said he feels like, because he finally is able to start talking to Captain Newman, and he feels like he was a coward
Right.
because he stayed in the bunker for over a year,
Right.
protecting himself from the war.
Right.
And because of the way his family is and his wife is,
Yeah.
he said he would rather stay silent and not speak and not eat than to show you he was a coward.
Well, also,
And
he
you can
loves
see
you
something,
so much.
because he just loves you so much. He
He
loves,
doesn't
he
want you to
can't be a
know.
coward to you. And she just, all of a sudden, she's just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And then everything changes.
Yeah.
Because I think she really loves him too.
Yeah.
But, because they've been so used to a certain way of life, she didn't know any other way either.
Right.
I mean, you can't really blame her. It's how she was raised as well.
Right.
So that's I think, a really great moment when Captain Newman has basically been told, what the heck have you done? Don't ever talk to her again, to where they have this moment where they're able to speak with each other, because he's not afraid. He's
Right.
not afraid to put the soldiers above his own self.
Right. Right. Right.
That matters more to him than he's like, he's still going to keep pushing forward and trying to help him.
And I love that when they have the Christmas, now there's this whole funny thing about the Christmas tree, but
Yeah.
first I want to say this. When they're having the Christmas party for all the people who are in the hospital, doesn't matter what
Right.
ward,
Right.
and the commander comes in, we get to see that she and Robert Duvall's character, Winston's his last name. I forgot what his first
Yeah,
name
it's
was.
Winston. I can't remember.
Paul Winston.
Paul Winston, that's
And
right.
they are sitting next to each other, and she's wearing this, because when she first comes, she's wearing this suit that looks sort of like a straight jacket kind of thing.
Yeah, right. The costumer did a great job, right?
But now she's wearing this soft, feminine. It's not showy or.
And they're singing and they're holding hands.
Yes, and they're holding hands.
And he has a smile on his face. She has a smile on her face.
Yes.
You know, I mean, you can see that Captain Newman, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
You know. And then this is another interesting thing, you know, the big colonel guy that's such a butthead, he is there celebrating and he's brought his wife along.
Right.
And it's hysterical because Tony Curtis, he thinks he's taught the Italians
a Christmas song,
a Jewish song, but it's a Russian song.
No, it is a Jewish song.
I know, but everyone's all confused. But the Italians are just doing it, and they're singing and they're celebrating, and everyone's celebrating. It's hysterical. It's absolutely hysterical. But the colonel is like irritated for some. He's like, wah, he's talking through the whole song, and his wife's like, if you don't, you see who's in charge. She goes, if you don't shut up and stop talking, I think she says something like, I'm gonna smack you, or I'm gonna do it. And he's like, oh, yes, dear.
But what he's talking about is the top of the tree has been cut
top
off.
of the tree was missing because Tony Curtis's character took his 20 some odd foot tree and cut the top of it for their ward, when technically he was supposed to go buy a tree, but that's another whole story. And but it is, I think, what makes, and this is why MASH was so popular, and why this movie isn't more popular is beyond me, is because it's real life. Not everything is always serious.
Right.
You do have light moments in life, even in war.
Yeah.
You do have laughter and lightheartedness and things that come about that aren't always dun dun dun.
Right.
You know, and that's what I appreciate about these stories that will have a combination, because that's the truth. And of course, you know, totally giving two things away, there is an incident that happens where they have this hearing finally.
Yeah.
For, you know, and
Colonel Bliss,
and this time they've already gotten the letter back about this is all his soldiers that he had been sent to die, and that's why he's suffering mentally.
Yeah.
And
they were airmen.
They were airmen. Right. It's so awful. And then but they are letting Captain Newman a part of this hearing this time.
Yeah.
And Colonel Bliss comes in, and they're like trying to talk to him as Colonel Bliss, and he's like saying the same thing. I am Captain, Colonel Future. I am Mr. Future. I am not Mr. Past. And you can see the bigwig guy going, what? What's going on here? What? And he's just, he cannot be in the present and talk to them.
Right.
Because he's not there.
Right.
He's just not there.
It's a separate personality.
Yes. Yes. Like you said, he had a split. He split himself into, I'm not going to talk about Mr. Past anymore. We're going to only talk about Mr. Future. And then as they start to take him away, he escapes.
Yeah.
And they're like, emergency, he's escaped. He's getting off the, he's out of the building now, and we don't know where he's at. We got to go get him. And so everybody rushes out, and they're trying to stop him, and he ends up going up that water tower.
Right.
And Captain Newman follows him and is trying to talk to him. Well, you obviously know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
And as you say, this is also a training facility. So an airplane goes by over his Captain, Colonel Bliss's head, and that's when he decides to jump. And the idiot colonel guy comes up to Captain Newman and says, you think if you hadn't seen him in in the hall, what is it, the dance hall or something. He goes, do you think he really would have done all this? And he looks at him, he goes, you don't understand. I've got, everything that just happened is exactly what he wanted to happen. He
Right.
had to send all these men to their death, and now he's with them. That's what he's just done. And you can see the colonel guy's like, oh. I mean, he's just dumb. He's an idiot.
I know.
And of course it's tragic and horrible, but I feel the way Captain Newman said, he needed to free himself.
Yeah,
He was
and
tortured.
the colonel does ask him, would you ever have been able to cure him? And he goes, that's the it's basically that's the question I ask myself all the time.
I ask myself my question every day. With
Yeah,
every single one of them.
I
You
don't
never
know.
know.
I don't
How
know.
can you know?
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
and we won't know. We
Right.
won't know because
Right.
now it's done.
Right.
He made his choice.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting thing because the money guy came, he went through the ward with him for his rounds, then he left for a while, and then there's this visit from the big wig that helps hire and get hire select the people that are going to work at this particular facility and in Arizona. And he has a private meeting with Captain Newman. He says, I want to shut all the other operations down on this base, and it's going to be I want you to run the mental health facility. That's what this base will be deemed as, mental health. And Captain Newman, because the money guy's there, and he looks up at him and he's like, because he knew.
Yeah.
He showed him. And it's so great that he was able to go back to this guy and tell him, we have to do more.
Yeah.
What is going on here is far bigger than we understand.
Right.
And he says, well, I don't know how I'm going to feel about that. And he goes, well, I'm going to give you time to think about it.
Yeah.
But this is what I want you to do.
Yeah.
And then they have this Christmas party, and then Captain Newman is given that
telegram,
and he finds out that Bobby Darin's character had been killed in combat. And it's such a sweet moment because he tells Angie Dickens, and she's just sobbing.
Yeah.
She's just sobbing, and she says, what did we do? What did we do? And he goes, no, he wrote me a letter saying I was his next of kin, and he was completely at peace at going back, and he was okay.
He was happy.
He was happy. He knew this was his course in life, and he had made peace with that.
Yeah.
And then really that's essentially how the movie ends is, they do the, because they've even had a conversation where he's like, what are you going to do after the war? She goes, I want to get married and have babies.
Yeah. They kind of indicate that maybe they might get married.
They might, yeah.
But like you said, the movie's not about a romance.
It's not. The movie is about how I think it's really great that they really let you know that someone in the military completely understood how important the mental health was.
Yes.
And
that guy was from the Pentagon.
He was from the Pentagon. That's right. And so that's a big that they knew how important this was.
Yeah, it was a big
deal. And where you kind of got that feeling that the soldiers mattered.
Right.
Where, before all that and during all that, you're like, this other, and it kind of makes me wonder, I kind of get the impression too that one colonel may have finally started to get a clue when he asked, could you have helped him?
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know. I don't know if I can help anybody. And he was kind of like, you could see him kind of going, oh.
It's sort of like a crapshoot.
It is like a crapshoot. He's absolutely right. It is like a crapshoot. And how I really appreciate art and our films because filmmakers aren't afraid to take the deep dive.
Right.
And this movie really takes you into the many layers and the many ways mental health presents itself.
Right.
It's not just one way.
Right.
It presents itself with not speaking. It presents itself with violence. It presents itself with split personalities. It presents itself with drug use and alcoholism,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
attachment to a certain item.
attachment, right? Attachment or moments of complete clarity.
Right.
And then you're not okay all of a
Right.
sudden because something triggered.
Right.
I mean, they show
Right.
all of that,
Yeah, they do.
and that, they really show the human side of it. They show how each and every one of these men, they don't want to be like that,
Right.
but they
Yeah.
just don't know how
How
to
to heal themselves.
heal,
Yeah.
because there is no guidebook on that.
Yeah. And we do get to earlier on in the movie, before the whole Colonel Bliss thing, and maybe even before Robert Duvall's character shows up, we get to see a couple of guys in the ward, and then we get to see them getting on the plane going back
Yes,
to
that's true. They show them
so
waving at them and,
yeah.
hey, thanks for helping me kind of thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
And they really show a good job of how each one of these soldiers in the bigger part of the ward, not in the private rooms, how they're interacting with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And how sometimes the interactions are very healthy and sometimes they're not so healthy, and they're
Yeah.
picking on each other and
Yeah.
making fun of how your trauma is displaying itself.
Right.
And
Exactly.
how Captain Newman has to, break that part up. And hey, what are you doing?
Right.
What you're doing is not right,
Yeah.
And I like how they show how he deals with it individually, how Tony Curtis's character deals with it individually, how the nurses,
Mm-hmm.
how his staff, guides each one of these soldiers through things that are all so deeply different, but deeply compassionate.
Yeah. Right.
And how every single one of them has an important role.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's an important thing to be talked about, that like one of his nurses just seems like she has this real softness about her, and she has a very soft voice,
Mm-hmm.
and she's very encouraging, and she's like, you sang to me yesterday. Should we
Yeah.
give it a try today?
Yeah.
And you can see him trying to open his mouth and talk to her. And she's like, but you know what? If you don't want to do it today, that's okay.
Yeah.
We can try again another time.
Yeah.
There's no pressure. There's no, come on, you got to perform for me like you're
Right.
a trick dog or something.
Right.
None of that.
Exactly.
That's how, and that is the one thing that they all are on the same
All
page.
the orderlies, all the
They're
all the
all on the same
nurses.
page of no pressure
Right.
to perform.
Right.
And Captain Newman, because he's such a great leader, they all follow suit without any issues.
Right. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
they just do their job so well.
Yeah.
And it's a really healing environment.
Yeah.
When it's really, it's very antiseptic and it doesn't feel homey, and
Right.
and I think that's what I like about Tony Curtis's character is he's creating a community.
Yeah. Stealing one of the other orderlies'
His sausages.
His huge
It's huge.
salamis
Yeah.
and
Big
things
salamis
that,
and,
yeah.
it's hysterical. But once that guy sees what it's about, he's like, oh, okay, whatever.
Yeah, right.
I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
And he brings Tony Curtis is so great with these soldiers too, because he helps them laugh.
Yes.
They have fun.
Yes.
And it's not this serious all the time.
All the time.
Dragging
Right.
down, and
Yeah.
he's got music, and he's singing, and he's telling jokes, and it's exactly what they need.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a good combination of a
Right.
team that Captain
Yeah.
Newman has put together. Yeah, I haven't read the book, but I just think that it would be great to go read that book, because often what I'll do is I'll watch the movie, then I go read the book,
Mhm.
and I've done that with a couple of Cary Grant, Gregory Peck movies,
Yeah.
where I've seen the movie and then gone and read the book. So this one, I might go read that book because I think it's an important time in history when,
It is. It
oh,
is.
we're finally figuring out that mental health and emotional health are
Oh
so
yeah.
important, and
Oh
that we
yes.
need to help people heal from their
Right.
trauma.
Right. And what a gift he gave the world in
Yeah.
recognizing this
Yes,
particular
really.
position,
Yeah.
because and Gregory Peck is the perfect choice to play this
Oh, yeah.
because like in that moment when he gives the flack juice to Bobby Darin's character and Bobby Darin's breaking down and he's hugging him,
Yeah.
and over his shoulder he is showing his emotion.
Yeah.
He's not this pasty faced
Well,
guy that has zero emotions. And Angie Dickinson is
yeah.
crying.
Yeah.
They understand the severity of the situation
Yeah.
and why this has been so hard on him.
But I also love it that when Bobby Darin wakes up and, oh, I had such a great sleep, and did I say
Right,
anything interesting? And
right,
Gregory Peck's character says, oh, you guys, you all think you've got the biggest problems. And then,
right.
but then you see him looking out the window and it's like, oh my God, how am I going to unravel this?
Yeah. You always see his wheels turning on how he's
Yeah.
going to, like with even the Robert Duvall, how he's like, okay, what can I do?
Yeah.
He's always
Right.
got his wheels turning and he's thinking. And, and just as he thought he's had something figured out with Colonel Bliss, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
He just can't get past that, Mr. Past and Mr. Future. He
Right.
just can't. Every time he calls him Colonel Bliss, and there are times where, he becomes quite violent and very dangerous,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and it's a lot for the orderlies to get him under control.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
takes, I mean, he's so full of adrenaline,
Yeah.
they can't even pin him down,
Yeah.
and that's something that Captain Newman is really struggling with. Like,
Yeah.
how are we going to move forward with this?
Yeah. Because
I mean,
he's
and I love
trapped.
that they show he's completely at a loss.
Yeah, because he wants to send him to a place where he's
Right,
going to be there permanently or
right.
maybe semi-permanently, but the overall commander of the base will not let him send him there.
Well, and then he's prepared to, and then the incident happens.
Yeah.
You can see he's like, something clicks with him. He's like, okay, so what do we need to do next?
Yeah.
And that's when he says, and this is after he's left the room, and he goes, this is the facility I would like him to send him to, close to his home, close to where
Right.
family is, to be as familiar as possible.
Right.
And then all hell broke loose.
Yeah. Right.
Because I think that big colonel was finally seeing the light.
Yeah.
And honestly, that actor, he always plays butt heads, but I think he does a really good job when the whole suicide, happens. Because he's asking questions, because now he's like, what the heck?
Right.
I think this is bigger than I even could imagine.
Yeah, finally, but the asking questions, that's the best place to
Yeah, and he's
be.
asking questions, and I think that's really important to show that as his
Yeah.
character, he even grew
Yeah.
and
Right.
started to see that there was more to it than he even, because he's making these judgment calls by not even putting himself in any of those situations. He's
Right.
not going and seeing the soldiers. He's just in an office screaming and yelling, going, "Why aren't they leaving in 10 weeks?"
Right. Right.
And and
Well,
and
and it makes you
Captain
wonder,
Newman's
has
boss
was
is like,
he
"You don't even understand."
well, maybe he didn't understand because we don't know. Was he ever really in combat? We don't
We
know.
don't know. Absolutely, we do not know that. Well, and I do think, I mean, a lot of my life, I was raised in a military town. I
Mhm.
lived in a military town in Arizona. I massaged a lot and knew a lot of soldiers. And the mentality really is suck it up.
Yeah.
Even now, it's still just suck it up.
Right.
Now, we've gotten so much better. now we're using animals and dogs as therapy. They're being trained not only, because therapy dogs used to be just for the blind.
Right.
Now they have programs where not only the soldiers are training the dogs, but they're training them to be with other soldiers with PTSD
Right.
and to recognize when a soldier might be going into a tailspin.
Right.
And they're there for them.
Right.
We've
Yeah.
come a long way, but we still have a way to go.
way to go. Yeah. Yeah.
In this country, the mental health funding is not a big thing.
No.
They keep trying to do it and then it gets knocked down,
Yeah.
as utter nonsense. So,
Yeah.
but I
So
think we're going through a big growing process through that as well.
right, in both the civil, military and just with the
Right.
regular population. And so
Right.
I think that's a good time for us to transition and say our next movie is a Betty Davis movie, Now Voyager, which is in the theme of mental health.
Right.
She has a nervous breakdown, and it's also a movie that's based on the Dr. Jackwith character is based on an actual doctor.
Right.
And so yeah, that one takes place in 1942, or it came out in 1942.
42. Yeah.
So yeah, that's a really we're going to keep doing more, like 2 or 3 more films that have to do with mental health issues.
Well,
And
and we just have to say, Now Voyager is a movie I never get tired of watching.
I know, I love it. I love it too.
It's an amazing script. It's amazing cinematography. It's
Yeah, everything
Betty
about it.
Davis. I mean, Betty Davis. All I
Yeah.
gotta do is say the name Betty Davis, and you
Yeah.
understand that and Claude Rains. I mean,
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah, it
So
is
good.
good. So we'll see you next time. And thanks for watching, and go watch Captain Newman. It's
Go watch it.
yeah, you can rent it, or Celeste said she found it. You found it
I
on
found it on YouTube. Yeah.
Free with ads, probably.
No, it's no ads.
Oh,
I
no
watched it with no
ads.
ads. I have seen 2 films now on YouTube with no ads.
Oh, wow.
Very, very fortunate.
You're not paying for YouTube, are you?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
Cool.
we have YouTube, but we don't pay for no ads. But
Yeah, right.
the 2
Yeah.
films I've seen on there, no ads. So
So
I'm very fortunate to have found that.
yeah, it's a great movie.
Oh, it is. It needs to be shown more often.
Yeah. So until next time, don't forget to subscribe, share, go to our Facebook group.
Make
We
comments.
what?
Make comments.
Make
Tell us how you
comments.
feel.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So thank you, and bye till next time.
Bye.